So, Gabriel, tell us, why should we go hyper casual rather than indie? I will hand over to you. So, go for it.
Thank you, Oscar. Thanks for having me. Allow me to share my screen. Um, so there we go. I hope you all can see my screen. So yeah,
All looks good.
great. I'm Gabriel, and I'm here to tell you why not to make traditional, quote unquote, indie games. So a little bit about myself. I'm the head of design at Kwalee. I've been 5 years in hyper-casual games. Not even sure how old that genre is, but it isn't much older than that. And I'm not even sure if we called it hyper-casual back then, if that term even existed. And what's maybe relevant to this talk, I've started out as a solo developer, had my own little studio, self-funded, so that this will be relevant later. A little bit about Kwalee. We are based in beautiful Leamington Spa in the UK. We are growing really quickly. Like we have new teams in Bangalore in India being scaled, in Beijing, in Turkey. Our games have reached almost 500 million downloads, which is staggering. Like a significant portion of the world's population has played our games, which is mind-blowing. And we are the UK's biggest hyper-casual games publisher. We publish games from external developer, and we develop our own games. So just for those who might not be that familiar with hyper-casual games, so what are hyper-casual games? It's if you go on your phone and open the App Store or the Google Play Store, you go to the game charts, scroll to the top, usually you'll see a lot of hyper-casual games there. Those are these simple, approachable games. They're free, so we make most of our money through ads. And in order to do that, we need to reach a very wide demographic. So it's really interesting when we look at our analytics data, we see from little kids to pensioners basically playing our games, which I believe hyper-casual games are the genre that reaches the widest possible audience. I could be wrong, which makes hyper-casual games also unique in that sense. And yeah, who is this talk for? This talk is for anyone who wants to make their own games, who likes to play games, who maybe thinks, oh, I want to do that. I want to show my creativity to the world. And maybe you're a student who has just graduated from some kind of game design, game programming related course. Maybe you're a hobbyist. Maybe you've gone through a few Unity tutorials and you think, oh, I want to give this a try, and this talk is for you. So where do people go to most of the time when they want to do their own thing? Is what I said, like quote unquote traditional indie games, like stuff you'd see on Steam. Steam is big for that, and I can clearly see why. Those games are amazing. Everybody loves to play them, and people obviously want to make stuff that they like to play themselves. There's the amount of genres and the creativity you can bring into these games is limitless, which is very appealing. You're not constrained by any rules that maybe like traditional AAA games are. And last but not least, there's also these stories of fame and fortune of bedroom developers working for years on their games and suddenly getting having a huge success with them, becoming millionaires overnight, having their name printed in game magazines and whatnot. Like these stories are certainly appealing to some people at least. And what I'm here to tell you is basically hypercasuals working on hypercasual games offers all of that and then some, and has some distinct advantages, which I'll get into in detail in this talk. So an important aspect is, of course, the creativity. Like if you're a creative thinker, if you're a creative person, you want to express yourself. You don't want to be constrained by boundaries, by certain rule sets. and I'm here to tell you, like, hyper casual games are probably the most diverse genre of games. There are countless subgenres. There are new ones being discovered constantly. And just to give you sort of a quick um, a quick glimpse into our portfolio, what Kwalee has made in recent times. For example, this game, it's called Overtake, which is a game, sort of like a racing game, but you're more racing against traffic, really fun game. Bake It, this is a pastry baking simulator, essentially. This is Sharpshooter Blitz, basically a first-person shooter in a simplified, hyper-casual format. Really fun game. We've published that recently. Was developed by an external developer. Amazing game. One of our big hit games is Droid. It's basically Pictionary as a mobile game. Was a huge success for us. Made huge waves. Off the Rails 3D. Here you get to be a train conductor. This is a very, very recent release. Stay tuned to see more of that one. It's called Blade Forge, and you make swords here. And you make swords, and then you get to use them in sort of a competition. A really cool game. This one is top 3 in the charts at the moment, called Teacher Simulator. You play as a teacher, but it's actually more of a trivia game, but packaged in a really appealing format. This is Big Battle 3D, a game we released last year, was a big hit for us. And that one was reminiscent of like real-time strategy games, a genre which I really love on PC. And this game sort of scratches that itch. Another one of our recent hits, Let's Be Cops. You get to play as a traffic police officer. This is Looper. This looks completely different. It's like minimalist aesthetic. It's a rhythm-based timing game, very arcadey, very fun, has a great soundtrack. You should check it out. There's another one of our recent hits. It's called Sneak Thief 3D, and it's a first-person stealth game, believe it or not. So you see this very wide range of different genres we can have. And the creativity extends also to making the games themselves. Like, this is just a behind the scenes view of Sneak Thief 3D, and you can see the complexity of the levels we made. Like, I started making games as in the Half-Life and Counter-Strike modding community. I used to make Half-Life mods and Counter-Strike maps. And when we worked on Sneak Thief, like, I had total flashbacks on working on these maps. Like, if level design is your thing, hyper casual games certainly can offer that as well. And we like to say at Kwalee, working on hyper casual games is like doing a game jam every day, because we are working on so many varied games, and the sky is the limit. Another thing I really like about hyper casual games is that gameplay goes above everything else. Doesn't matter that presentation doesn't mean that presentation doesn't matter, but if you have a fun game and it's truly fun to play, and it's also original, so it's not a clone or anything like that, you're very likely to have a hit game on your hands, especially if it also looks fun to play. If you can see the video and see, oh yeah, that looks fun to play, I want to play that. And all that stuff that matters more in AAA games and even indie games, like graphics and story and character and maybe even IP, like, do we have the Marvel franchise behind you, stuff like that. It doesn't really matter in hyper casual games. It's a really pure genre, if I dare say, like, in the sense that it's all about gameplay, or mostly about gameplay. Graphics do matter a little bit. I'm not going to deny that, but way less than in other genres. So another thing that really appeals to me personally, I'm a person who craves novelty, who doesn't like to get stuck on the same thing for months and years. So the short development time of hyper casual games, it's something that really appeals to me. A lot of our prototypes, most of our prototypes are developed in less than a week. Like, on the left side, you can see a screenshot of our recent hit, Let's Be Cops. And I've checked actually the timestamps on Slack. when I got this, this is a screenshot from a video, and I got this screenshot from, and it took us less than a day to have like the core functionality of the game. We then spent a little bit more time to polish it and add a little bit prettier graphics and stuff like that. But the core functionality was there after less than a day. So hyper-casual games can be developed in a really in very little time, which makes it appealing. You get to work on something new virtually every week, which at least for me is very appealing. And now we're doing something called CTR tests, which means we just test the marketability of the game. And what CTR tests allow us to do is basically we don't even need a prototype anymore. We just need a gameplay video. It doesn't even need to be recorded from on a phone. It can be recorded from the Unity editor. It doesn't need to have a lot of content, like if we have a minute of gameplay we can show, that's all we need. It doesn't need to be very polished. It doesn't need to work properly. If it has bugs, we just don't record footage of these bugs. So that allows us to even quicker test game ideas, which I think is very exciting. Especially if you're somebody who has like this stream of creative ideas and you just want them all made. Hyper-casual games are cheaper to produce. Like there's just less of an expectation of production quality. Like using asset packs is not frowned upon. Like if you sometimes on Steam you see games like which, and you see their reviews and it says something like, oh, this is just an asset flip, because players recognize that this is an asset pack that was used in the game. That's not an issue in hyper-casual. Nobody's gonna care if you're using asset packs, so that saves a lot of money and time. Programming is often not very complex. Like there's usually the AI, if there's any AI, then it's very simple. We don't really do multiplayer. Like we use bots as a, I mean, there are some hyper-casual games that sort of imply that they look like they are multiplayer games, but that's just smoke and mirrors. Those are all bots. Sorry if I gave away the secret of anyone. We don't need sounds. People usually don't play them with sound on, so those are not really needed, at least not for the initial versions. We can add it later on if a game does well. And there's not a lot of content required. Like there's no expectation of having like 8 hours of playtime. It can do with much less than that, as long as the game is fun and engaging. That's you don't need to have like, I don't know, 8 hours of unique levels or anything like that. So that saves production time. Here's a scary headline I found on Ars Technica. It says 80% of Steam games earn under $5,000 in the first 2 weeks, which is frightening. Like that means there's a lot of developers that don't break even, maybe, or barely make a profit with their games. And also, if you think about it, with traditional indie games, the development times are much longer. So you spend months, if not years, working on your baby. You don't have any income during that time. You're just eating into your savings or your investor money or whatever source of funds you have, or you're doing it on the side. You don't have any income, and then you release your game to the world, and then it's like the dice roll. Is it going to make enough money? Is it going to make the money back or not? Which is a frightening prospect. Like I've been there. It's indeed very frightening. And what hyper-casual games offer, at least when working with Kwalee, I cannot speak for our competitors, but when working with Kwalee, when we're publishing a game with us, we do offer advance payments. We do offer milestone payments if certain KPIs are met. We can build that relationship with the solo developer or an independent developer to stay afloat, even and get some money even before the game is really released, even before the game is really profitable. We do offer that, and like I've mentioned earlier, with hyper casual games, you won't waste a lot of time and money on something that simply won't work. Another thing, hyper casual games, you need an artist, you need a programmer, you need a game designer. As I've mentioned earlier, like asset packs are a thing. So if you're a programmer who has a good sense for aesthetics and knows how to put together some assets, maybe you don't even need an artist. Or if you're an artist who sort of dabbled into scripting, maybe the game you come up with is simple enough that it doesn't even that you can basically write it yourself. The code, it's a lot of them can be written in rather simple Unity scripts, and that's why I say it's you need a team of 3 people or less to get to work on hyper casual games. And another thing that really really would appeal to me, and if I were an independent developer making hyper casual games, is that you only, for at least, again with the caveat, working with us, working with Kwalee, publishing your game with Kwalee means we take care of the heavy lifting. We take care of the boring stuff. If you look at the pie chart on the left, that's actually based on a real indie game I found, I believe, on Gamasutra. I switched the numbers up a little bit, but it's representative of where time is being spent in the development of an indie game. So you see, more than a third is actually spent on boring stuff, I would say, like marketing and bug fixing. I mean, if you're a game developer, you want to make games. You don't want to spend ages bug fixing or marketing the game. And we take care of all of that. We take care of ports. If you make an iOS build, we port it to Android and vice versa. We take care of quality assurance. We integrate all these SDKs, the Facebook SDK and ad SDKs and analytics SDK, really tedious stuff that can go wrong. We take care of that. We take care of localization and of course of user acquisition and marketing. So in the indie scene, there is this saying that the last 10% is really the last 90%, meaning like the polishing a game and just getting it out feels like a never-ending story. And I've been there. It's really not fun. But that doesn't necessarily apply to hyper casual games, at least not when working with us. Like we take care of that tail end, that boring thing, and you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, if that sounds like something you'd want to be a part of, you'd want to try, get in touch with us. Write us an email at publishing@kwalee.com. If you're an indie developer who maybe you don't even exactly know where to get started with hyper casual games, just contact us. We will help you get your foot in the door and help you get started with the hyper casual development. Also, of course, if you already have hyper casual games you're working, or if you're already working on a hyper casual game or a game that could be turned maybe into a hyper casual game, contact us, please. We have a really talented team of publishing managers that are going to help you. And I believe it's something, I'm not sure how common it is with our competitors, but with Kwalee, the publishing team works very, very closely with the design team. We have a very talented design team. We have a proven track record of hit games. Like not to brag, but we have two games in the top 5 charts in the US at the moment, in the App Store charts. So we have a track record. We know how to make these games, and we are there to not only make our own games, but we're also there to help indie developers and hyper casual external developers. And the design team supports the publishing managers to make sure if a game doesn't quite meet the KPIs, so we can help there to drag it across the line. And check out Kwalee.com. We have an interesting blog with where we write more about how we work on hyper casual games. And if going solo is not really for you, maybe you lack the funds, or it's too terrifying, or you doesn't fit your life circumstances, and you prefer to have that steady paycheck, go to Kwalee.com /join us. It's a great place to work, like fun people, bunch of perks, all that stuff. Great environment to work. We have something called Creative Wednesdays, which means every Wednesday, everyone at the company, I mean, literally everyone, can work on their own game ideas. And we give you that creative freedom to work on your own game ideas. And what sweetens the deal, we have a profit sharing scheme in place. That means every quarter we get bonuses based on profits and based on your contribution to a profit-making game, which means you sort of get to be almost a little bit like an entrepreneur. You get the creative freedom you would have if you were if you were a solo developer or a small studio. You get paid like an entrepreneur. You get a share of the profits, but you don't have any of the risks, because you have a steady paycheck. You have an office environment where everything is provided to you. So it's the best of both worlds. It certainly suits me. Like, I've been a solo developer, and I've been an entrepreneur, and working at Kwalee definitely scratches that entrepreneurial itch I always had. And so, yeah, Kwalee.com /join us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gabriel. That's great stuff. I've got so many questions for you, and I've only got about 2 minutes to do it in. But I did start you 5 minutes late, so that's my fault. So just want to see if we can tap into some of these. So first question here: do you do user acquisition in tier 3 and 4 geos like India? And are you able in those economies to get return on investment? Can you make money basically in the Indian market with this kind of game?
Truth be told, we do strive for profitability when we scale a game. So worldwide, yes. India in particular, I don't know the numbers. It's not really my forte, but I would assume so, because we do strive. If we scale a game, that means we're making a profit on it. So I do assume that applies to India as well.
Yeah, and in my understanding of it is, I think that because we're dealing with advertisers rather than direct payment mechanisms, it's actually in some ways a bit more easy to make some level of profit because of the issues with the way billing, particularly credit card-based billing, works, which can be a problem. So yes, I know some organisations that do okay, but I don't think it's as kind of profitable, say, as the US, for example. Another one here is, in fact, I'm going to go for one that's in the chat. So Abel B saying, what guarantees that after showing you the game that you if the deal was rejected, what stops you from appropriating their idea? Should there be an NDA in place before showing you a prototype? What do you think about that?
This is it's an excellent question. I'm not entirely sure what the publishing team, how they approach this, but what I can tell you is doing something like that would just create a bad reputation throughout the industry. If we were to do something like that, that word gets out and we would tarnish our reputation forever. So I don't know the details, what exactly is signed, what's in the contract, but it's not something we would do. We are looking for long-term partnerships.
Exactly, and I think this is the thing that we often see, actually, is that there is a problem where we get very precious about our ideas, and there is no investor who will sign an NDA that's worth the salt, because basically it's a pointless exercise for them. If you don't have the capacity to produce lots of ideas in hypercasual, there's no point in having a relationship with you. And the fact that you think your idea is unique is probably wrong. And I suspect from my observation, it's mostly about, can you deliver the relationship that delivers the quality of experience for the player on a regular basis. And that's about teamwork, not about a specific idea. Does that make sense to you?
That's absolutely how it is. Don't get too attached to your ideas. Get the mindset of failing fast, moving on, failing fast, moving on, like having that mindset, not getting too attached, not trying to, oh, but maybe if I twist it a little bit like that, it will work. Just move on. If the game doesn't meet the KPIs, if it's near the target KPIs, we can work with you. Like I mentioned, we have a design team that will work with you, that will help you drag that game across the line. But if it's far from the mark, it's better to move on, as harsh as it can be.
So Ponima was saying that video ads versus playable prototypes. Have you seen a difference in terms of click-through rates for testing hyper-casual games?
Is in comparatively prototypes to click-through rates, if I understand correctly, which means with prototypes we get the full set of data. We get CPI data, we get retention data. However, with CTR tests, we only obviously get CTR and some other stuff, CPC and IPMs. In terms of like what exactly the metrics are that we're looking for, this is again a question more for our publishing team. Fortunately, I'd have to refer you to publishing at Kwalee.
Oh, that's fine. I know those guys pretty well. But if anyone's interested, if you ever participate in the Big Indie Pitch, Kwalee are fantastic sponsors of that event. I'm very lucky. I spend a lot of time doing judging on that myself. And they're so much more generous than I am. I'm so much more brutal. They're a great bunch of people to work with, and again, but obviously there are other people who are in this space, and we're going to talk about the one of the bigger teams next. So I'm going to say thank you to Gabriel from Kwalee.